The world's going to need a lot more LNG than anybody's pricing in, or at least that's what Shell's 2026 LNG outlook says. In this document, they predict a 65% increase in global LNG demand by 2050. That's almost 700 million tons a year. This completely changes the narrative of this market from a space that was expected to be oversupplied by the end of the decade to one that might have years of growth ahead of it. And importantly, that completely shifts the narrative here in Canada, where the biggest question mark has been, are we too late to this story? Have we already missed the opportunity? Will we be just supplying an oversupplied market? Today, not only are we going to break down how this impacts the Canadian LNG opportunity, but of course, which companies are likely to win from this revised forecast. When you're talking about the LNG opportunity, the natural gas opportunity in Canada, you want to talk about companies, you have to start with the producers. The largest of them is Tourmaline, the stock we'll talk about today. The producers are the backbone of this business and they benefit for many key reasons. But I think the most important is probably the most obvious. Anytime the natural gas price goes up, they benefit. Tourmaline is such a large producer, such a high volume producer, that they really do depend on a higher baseline price in order for their margins to improve. Now, we have seen already many experts talk about how we expect the current slate of LNG projects in Canada to have an impact on this. We expect, the AECO price to come closer in line with our peers in the States. And that could mean a huge difference between today's, $1.50 pricing and maybe $3, which could, of course, double, triple, quadruple margins for some of these producers. But on top of that, if there is to be 200 million tons, which is what Shell expects, of additional investment needed, you need a higher price for longer. You could have even elevated LNG pricing in global markets, pushing up North American benchmarks. On top of this, the more natural gas you get out of the North American market, the better the pricing becomes for any other demand growth in North America. We've talked about the AI story a couple times, but there has been a huge push towards electrification, towards more resilient, more powerful grids. We have seen natural gas a key player in that, including here in Canada, where we saw natural gas as one of the largest contributors of new energy in 2025. That means that there is this sort of two-headed approach where Tourmaline not only benefits from the LNG trade, they also produce a significant amount of LNG. They're putting LNG into the LNG Canada facility. They're putting LNG down to the US on the Gulf Coast, where they have these deals that bring them higher global benchmark pricing. But on top of that, the baseline improves and that massively changes their margins. Now, with Tourmaline specifically, I think there's an extra bit here that makes me more excited to own the stock. And that is the fact that this company has had a brutal couple of years. Since 2022, the company's basically floundered. At today's pricing, we're talking a $22 billion stock that is currently expected to grow. Analysts expect a huge next year, right? They think next 12 months will be at $70. Over $11 from today's pricing, and they expect the PE to be cheap, price for cash flow to be cheap, it's paying you a 5% dividend. But if I show you guys the stock chart here, you'll understand why investors have been so frustrated. Look at everything that's happened, all of that price action since 2023. It's basically flat. We've been buying this stock for years here on the channel, but all the while we understood that the long term here is really long. You aren't going to see the kinds of giant spikes to the upside like you have seen in oil producers because they don't have the same kind of beta to the natural gas market outside of North America that they would in an environment with 4 or 5 additional LNG facilities here in Canada, 4 or 5 in the US. That means that right now they are really dependent on natural gas pricing. They are really dependent on the long-term growth story in order for the company to grow. That also does mean, though, that you have a huge opportunity to slowly accumulate shares. That's what I've been doing. And so when I look at how the company is sort of positioned right now as not only a company that has massively cut costs, has improved their long-term profitability, they've improved their infrastructure, they've made a lot of investments in the short term that are sort of short-term bad, long-term good. They've basically positioned themselves as the perfect beneficiary from a story like this. A market that not only sees the 2 or 3 additional LNG expansions in Canada, but again, maybe 2 or 3 more after that. A huge ramp up of the global demand, a huge increase in pricing long term, when you look at baselines and how much money would be needed to get another 200 million tons a year of additional supply, right? To get the commodity price high enough so that lenders are willing to take the risk to even build these facilities, you would be talking about a huge amount of money going to companies like this that have been incredibly boring to own for years. But of course, Tourmaline is not the only company that's a beneficiary. And one that I think is very interesting right now are companies like Peyto. Now, Peyto is sort of a S-mid, small to mid-cap natural gas producer. And we've got a couple of these in Canada. You can talk about, Advantage. You can talk about Birchcliff. You can talk about a couple more names. But I think Peyto is the most interesting to me. Not only because I've owned it for years, not only because it killed it in 2025 and so has like a group of really dedicated shareholders around it, but also because it is a $5 billion company market cap, only about $6 billion in enterprise value, and is probably one of the most attractive takeout candidates in the Canadian space right now. We have seen a list of major national oil companies, major international oil companies that are actively shopping for Canadian natural gas or Montney assets. They have been looking at companies like Peyto. They've been even looking at companies the size of Tourmaline, like we saw with that ARC deal, and saying the stuff in the ground is worth an awful lot more than the stock is trading for. And the long term here is clearly getting better and better. All of these major oil companies have their own internal projections. The fact that Shell published theirs and told the rest of us what they expect doesn't mean that anyone from Equinor to Occidental to Exxon, all of these companies understand what the long term looks like. They understand that this market is growing like that. And to see companies like this still trading at EV to EBITDA is 5.4. So the actual enterprise value of the company compared to the amount of money coming in the door before you start talking about taxes or any of that stuff is tiny. And again, this is a company that has an incredibly deep asset base. They are in the Alberta Deep Basin. They are an incredibly efficient producer. They also managed to have several important supply deals to LNG facilities. And with new LNG facilities being built, they would have access to many more. But importantly, they are so cheap and they are so likely to get bought. I think we're going to see, once the Hormuz crisis kind of dies down and there's a little bit more money probably freed up, I think you're likely to see a number of deals with companies like Peyto. Now, it might not literally be them. Maybe the board doesn't want to sell and they can prevent that. But it might be, Advantage, who put themselves on sale in the last 18 months. Could be companies like Birchcliff. It could be any of these. Paramount, for example, who people have wanted to hear about, right? These companies at this kind of size are incredibly likely to benefit by being purchased, by being brought into the fold by a major international firm, maybe a major Canadian firm, and to be sort of built into this larger machine. It also stands to reason that as you see more consolidation, you'll also see more disciplined drilling, something that I've been talking about for years now, where we are very likely to see after more mergers are done, after more companies are bought out, we are very likely to see a much more disciplined Montney environment where we're not all competing with each other to grow, and therefore we can actually see better long-term pricing. And this is where we get to the final kind of company that is going to massively benefit from this story. It's TC Energy. Now, the midstream companies, the sort of pipeline stocks in the natural gas space have a gigantic opportunity in front of them. And this specific report doesn't necessarily change the fact that they already were looking at huge growth opportunities over the next decade. But what TC has now is an extra slate of new growth opportunities coming post 2030. One of the challenges that I had seen analysts and experts bring up about the midstream sector, specifically in Canada, was the fact that we were talking about companies that had, pretty high valuations. TC currently trades at a PE of 28, price free cash flow of 25, which means that you're looking at a stock that has a lot of quality, a lot of moat built in. They are paying a fairly high dividend. I mean, TC, we're talking about 3.6%, which puts them at 106% payout ratio. Now, midstream stocks like this, when they're looking at the payout ratio, you're calculating, a whole bunch of different factors in there. They are able to pay out. I mean, Enbridge sat at 150 for a period of time, but there is still questions among investors about whether or not you can still grow the dividend, continue to, maybe keep up with inflation, maybe outpace inflation. from a dividend growth perspective? And then sort of how does the company keep going, right? If you're going to keep paying out this much money, you've got $60 billion in debt on the books, where are the opportunities to grow? Well, seeing this deal brought up, seeing the fact that we have now an extra 200 million tons a year of LNG demand that we don't necessarily have supply for, that we're going to need huge new investments, new facilities, and seeing that North America specifically is an incredible hub for this new supply. Well, all of this means that the existing slate of projects that TC has, which is tens of billions of dollars of new projects that will bring in huge amounts of new revenue, that's just step one. The stuff that they are expecting to build, in the next 10 years, they could have another 2 times that between 2035 and 2045 and 2050. There are huge growth opportunities now longer term for this company, which makes it a much more interesting hold if you own it as a dividend growth stock like I do. When you're looking at these midstream companies, they really depend on the volume growth. They are the winners if volumes grow and prices stay low. And in an environment where we've managed to do that every single time we've seen LNG stories come along, right? The US, somehow they are still seeing incredibly cheap pricing, even though they have built hundreds of billions of dollars of LNG projects. Canada, we are still seeing that gas trading at $1.50. Even though we have LNG Canada, we have new data centers coming online, we have all these American LNG projects that are supposed to push Henry Hub pricing up, right? All of this benefits the midstream companies. And so as a stock that you can hold today, and I'm not saying that it's like the best buy it's ever been here by any means. And I'm not saying that, you should be rushing out to buy midstream. But if you're somebody who just wants a consistent growing dividend, you've been worried about the midstream space and you're thinking, I don't know, maybe it grows long term, maybe it doesn't, maybe I'll stick to something else that pays a smaller dividend or, doesn't grow it as often. Well, all of a sudden companies like TC and Enbridge, these companies just got a huge lifeline handed to them. And it will change materially the long-term outcomes for investors. And so as I come to the end of this video, I want to turn the question over to you guys. What do you think about this Shell report? What do you think about the additional, $200 billion of new supply they think the world's going to need? What do you think about the 65% growth they're predicting? Do you think that we're likely to see other technologies maybe curtail that? I mean, I know a lot of folks who are big on the nuclear story. They think, it takes maybe a decade or so to get this nuclear story ramping. But once it ramps, it could be huge. A lot of folks are talking about other methods, right? What other ways are we going to get new electricity here? And they're not quite as bullish on the LNG story. I would really love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And of course, if there's any specific companies that you own for this long-term story, what are they? Let me know in those comments below. And as always, if you like today's video, please do like it. If you like what we do here on the channel, please do subscribe. And I hope I see you in the next one.